anybody tell you, whether it was a manager or whether it was an inspector, did anybody come in and say, you might have lead because, this is a building that was built before 1960? Never.
When I speak to like the other families, I'm one of the families that sat on it. And I'm one of the parents that denied anything was wrong with my child because I wanted him to be so normal. And it affected his speech. Like, the best way that I could put it is, like, he's 8 right now, but he has the mentality, and when he speaks to you, it sounds like about a 5 or 6 year old. And this is where the frustration, and when they start acting out, because it's like they can't express themselves the way that they want to.
At the end of the day, we knew about the lead crisis for generations, and there are homes that still have not been updated or inspected adequately or at all. For the last couple of years, we have seen headlines like this on the cover of New York City papers. Unfortunately, the lead poisoning crisis did not start just a couple of years ago. It started several mayors ago. This has been a crisis in the city for several decades, and it unfortunately had to come to the public's attention through reporters and a series of class action lawsuits. NYCHA is the #1 landlord in the entire country. 1 in 8 working New Yorkers pays rent into NYCHA, up to several thousands of dollars a month. And they are not receiving the proper and adequate oversight and investigations.
So nationally, lead was banned in paint in 1978, but New York City was on the front of the issue, and in 1960, New York City banned paint. But it's a deceiving fact because there were contractors coming in from Connecticut and from New Jersey, and so one thing that NYCHA has done since the 1960s is insist that any buildings that were built before 1978 but after 1960 weren't really part of any inspections that needed to be conducted.
When did the public first learn about the lead crisis?
In 2017, news started trickling out based on Department of investigations that were taking place and some reporting by local media that there was a crisis. It turns out that as early as 2012, the New York City Housing Authority, which we refer to as NYCHA, was not reporting to HUD, the federal agency that helps fund it, that it was not actually doing annual lead inspections, which are required under federal, state, and city law.
We're also learning that the city did not hire investigators that were qualified to investigate whether or not there was lead poisoning. We have been grateful enough to speak with families who have filed this lawsuit when they learned that their children at a young age had eaten lead paint, chips that were exposed in their homes, and that they learned that their children had been exposed due to developmental issues.
So I went to go do my son's annual physical for pre-K. They did his regular blood work, gave him his shots or whatever. They did a lead test. I get a call maybe a few days later from the DOH talking about they had to come and inspect my apartment because my son was poisoned, had lead in his blood.
Did you know about when this happened? I mean, where he had been exposed to lead?
Yeah, I had a hole in my wall from the busted pipe.
Very few homes within the NYCHA communities have ever really been remediated in a meaningful way. What NYCHA did by way of inspecting and remediating was have a super come up to the apartment, look to see if there's any peeling paint on the wall, and if they see peeling paint, just repainting over it. And so they would then check a box and say that A, it's been inspected, which it really hadn't, B, it had been remediated, which it really hadn't, and then C, isn't subject to further inspections because it's passed an inspection by someone who wasn't really capable of inspecting or remediating.
My apartment been inside the family for about 40 years. So when my uncle finally signed the lease over to me, I wanted to move some stuff around, and I moved the deep freezer, but when I moved the deep freezer, there was a big hole. So I started sweeping up the debris and stuff like that, but of course the baby toys was mixed in with the dirt and stuff, and he's 1.5 at the time, so he don't know not to pick something up and just put it in his mouth. He picked up the toys that was in the debris from the wall from me moving the deep freezer, and he put it in his mouth, and I said, get that out your mouth. And as soon as I said that, I was like, Lord, I don't know what he ate, but that's when I knew. That's when I knew.
But one of our lawsuits is a class action lawsuit, and it alleges that people who have children have been unfairly treated in violation of the Fair Housing Act. And for years and years and years, NYCHA has either not provided lead-based paint disclosures to families with children, or they've provided lead-based paint disclosures that are patently false.
I mean, when I heard about the lead poison, I didn't even think that it still exists in 2016, 2017. Like, I'm thinking that's 1960s, and it's crazy.
Unfortunately, many children did not have the ability to file this lawsuit because they learned about the developmental issues after they were 18. They learned that they were poisoned after the age of 18 when they no longer have the right to sue the government. The big issue I think that many New Yorkers are thinking about right now is, where did this go wrong?
Yeah, I think there was a cover-up. We have elected a mayor who, when he was the public advocate, he sent a strong letter to then Mayor Bloomberg expressing his disdain with the New York City Housing Authority's treatment of children, and specifically children who were exposed to lead-based paint. And then you fast forward 5.5, 6 years later, when he's now the mayor and running for his second term, he knew 3 months into his re-election campaign that Shola Alatoye and NYCHA were not providing accurate disclosures to HUD. You know, we have a Department of Investigation whose chairperson is appointed by the mayor, and one of the Department of Investigation's largest tasks is to investigate issues associated with the conduct of the mayor's office. The public advocate's office needs to be independent of everything associated with politics.
Some NYCHA houses are now being privatized, and they're now working with HUD under Ben Carson to supposedly solve the problems.